Hey, this is D Knight.
This is Kara.
This is Ty.
And you're listening to the Pardon the Insurrection podcast, where we have more important people speaking at our convention than fucking Hulk Hogan and shit. In case you were unaware out there, this is the big week, rollout time for the presidential campaign for the Democratic Party. DNC is in Chicago. There's a lot of history behind that. We're not covering any of that because hopefully, well, just in case we jinx it, because the last time that shit was in Chicago, it didn't fare well. But we're changing the I guess, the tides of fate here, so to speak.
It's different. It's different, D.
Yeah, it's a lot different. I mean, you know,
wasn't that a split convention?
Yeah, contested, and ended up with a presidential candidate that wasn't on the ticket, and it turned, just totally different disaster. We're living in modern times now. Things are a lot different. Fingers crossed we'll pull this off in a way they didn't back then. But a lot of huge guests that spoke this week. Of course, it's not like, you know, the insane asylum that was the Republican Party where people were holding up signs talking about deport people. No, here in the Democratic Party, we celebrate America, or at least we celebrate what America could be. We're on the path to hope, freedom, change, all that good shit Obama was talking about back in the day. Speaking of which,
I heard him recently. You know, I saw him the other night. Just me and him and whoever else was on TV, I guess. Watching TV.
He said it like you were hanging out with Obama. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
I did say it like that.
Well, he is married, so he doesn't have eyes for anyone but Michelle, who happened to also speak today, but we'll talk about that in just a second. So one of the first things... yeah, that was yesterday. Yep. So one of the most interesting things about the convention, at least for starters, is their rollout of an attack line on Trump, because obviously you want to celebrate Kamala Harris and pump her up and figure out ways to compliment her as far as public perception is concerned. But also you got to address the elephant in the room, so to speak. I mean, I don't know how big Trump is. His hands are pretty tiny, but the rest of, well, I mean, his stomach's pretty large. I guess that's the trade-off. But we'll start out with the attack line from the Democratic Party on the Republican Party.
In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. This is the story of Donald Trump. His entire life, Trump has believed he's above the law, that no one would ever dare hold him accountable. He lies. He rips off workers. He sexually abuses women.
Hey, when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
He cheats in business. He cheated on his wife with a porn star and paid her off so the American people wouldn't find out during an election. But in the criminal justice system, ordinary Americans have had the courage to find him accountable, time and time again.
Guilty.
Guilty.
Guilty. Donald Trump, guilty on all 34 felony counts.
For the first time in history, we have a convicted felon running for president. And to take on this case, we need a president who has spent her life prosecuting perpetrators like Donald Trump. He tried overturning Georgia's free and fair election.
I just want to find 11,780 votes.
He's tried to escape any responsibility for instigating the January 6th attack on our Capitol.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you.
And if elected, Trump has promised to overturn laws that would keep him accountable and exact retribution on anyone he considers an enemy, even warning of a bloodbath if he doesn't get his way. So we, the people, have a chance to render our own verdict on Donald Trump. We are the jury he most fears. When we vote this November, we vote for justice, accountability, and the rule of law that keeps America free.
Yo, they whooped his ass. So there was a lot in there.
Keeps America what? Keeps America what?
Save free, all that good shit, pro democracy. But so I played that because, first of all, one of my few complaints about the Biden campaign over the course of the past year or so is they don't do enough, well, of that, really. But setting the stage to frame Trump in a way that's detrimental to America, in a way that's digestible for people. And I think they nailed every single possible thing they could in that ad. Liar, cheater, fraud, criminal, traitor. I mean, they whoop his ass. Spend more time doing that. I mean, I know.
Keep that boot on his neck for the next 77 days.
Yeah, stomp him on out. Like, you can't let this dude get a breath of air. And the Harris campaign, like, I don't know. I assume the infrastructure is largely similar to the way it was when it was the Biden campaign, except for, you change around a few people at the top and maybe the comms team. Well, and obviously the rapid response team with the Twitter, Facebook / TikTok.
They're on it. Like, as soon as he says something or posts something, they are immediately countering it. They get ASAP.
They're doing a great job. And I always thought it was a mistake for our side to be so gracious. Like, I love Michelle, but the original time when they go low, we go high. I was like, no, we should be like kicking them when they're down. When they go low, like, that's when you fucking stop. Like,
when they go low, you pour the dirt on top, bury their asses. And the Harris campaign is doing that effectively in ways that I wish Biden probably should have and could have. I mean, the stuff was there. Like, we spend every day on Twitter burying Trump.
He's an old man and he's set in his ways and he's always been that kind of dude. So
well, this isn't specifically directed at Biden because Biden will take shots at Trump, but it was more like the communication strategy, right? But I guess that they want to take a tack that they think is fitting for, how Biden is perceived. But I mean,
it's
also,
just like kind of a waste to try attempt decorum against, immorality. And well, just they're like, great. So you can have people be very polite and cordial while they fuck you over, or like, or you could tell them to fuck off.
Yeah, well, the Harris campaign is telling them to fuck off, and rightly so. They're doing an effective job. But that wasn't even the only angle they took. So obviously, we got Trump's bad behavior. You do need to highlight that because, I mean, I feel like, after January 6th, people just tuned out of politics for 4 years and they're waking back up now that there's a new candidate on the ticket. They're tuning in, maybe not to the DNC itself, but, this stuff spreads on social media like wildfire. So they need to put out stuff like that, of course, but that's not the only tack they took. Obviously, we have Mike Walsh to thank for starting off the fiery trend of labeling Republicans and specifically Trump and JD Vance as weird.
Yeah.
Thank God. Because, I mean, we've been talking about that in quiet. I was like, as soon as people figure out that these guys are weirdos, it is over for them. And the DNC did not disappoint in that regard because they also chose a line of attack painting them as weirdos.
Nobody's ever called me weird. I'm a lot of things, but weird I'm not. The late, great Hannibal Lecter is a wonderful man.
You know what I'd do if there was a shark or you get electrocuted? I'll take electrocution every single time.
Bing, 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 bing.
She said Kamala has one big advantage. She's a very beautiful woman.
I'm a better looking person than Kamala. He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one.
I'd like to congratulate Vladimir Putin for having made yet another great deal. Kim Jong-un I had a good relationship with. He's a tough, smart guy.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath. Well, they're the weird ones. JD is not at all.
The people who are most deranged and most psychotic are people who don't have kids at home.
Let's give votes to all children in this country, but let's give control over those votes to the parents of those children.
In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
See, I'm glad someone added it's dangerous. So you can't read that part on the screen. It said it's not just weird, it's dangerous. Yeah, I feel like we've been understating that part just when we keep focusing on how fucking weird they are. Be like, hey, it's weird. Wait. But they're like predators. It's weird in a dangerous, predatory way.
Yeah, it's the perfect complement to the thought, right? And I'll get to this at the end of the podcast, but one of the most effective forms of messaging, just in general, when you have an opponent, is to divide them from the people that support them by painting that person as different or outside of the norm or unusual or weird, but also dangerous, right? So it's in the same way, I don't know if you're listening to this, how interested you are in hip hop or rap or whatnot, but there's this huge rap beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And one of the effective things Kendrick Lamar did in winning that rap battle, just, in the form of conveying a message, was painting Drake as this outsider dude who's just trying to get accepted, but he also engages in weird behavior, but also keep your little sister from around him.
Yeah.
And
that is true.
The Democratic Party taking this lane of, effectively led by the Harris campaign of painting Trump as somebody you just can't, you got to keep the family away. He's scaring the hoes, he's scaring the kids, scaring everybody. And he's also strange, and it's also dangerous. I mean, that is, world-class psychological shit. I'm not necessarily saying the Harris campaign is going to pull this off in November. Who knows? Because just God forbid, like I understand the difficulty of getting a majority of America behind any candidate that's a woman when her name is on the ticket. And that's, no shade at Hillary Clinton because she got more votes than Trump, but obviously thanks to some technicalities, she lost. Fingers crossed she will. But if she's going to, this is the stuff that'll do it. It's this right here. It's the stuff that they do while they're on the attack that's also complemented by the things that they do to build Harris up as a person of the people, family woman. Even though she doesn't have her own children, she's got adopted kids, her husband's there. Who the fuck knows where Melania is? Have you guys seen Melania in the last couple of months? I ain't seen her nowhere.
Last time I saw Melania, her son was between her legs taking a picture. So, and that was the happiest I've seen her look. Actually, she had a smile on her face.
Speaking of creepy, there was
creepy.
That picture. So if you don't know what Ty is talking about, there's this picture of Melania sitting on a couch, looking up at her son who was standing lovingly in between her legs in the most weirdo, creepy way. Child abuse level shit, while aiming a camera down at her, looking like, I don't know, it was weird.
It was weird. And then the way she had her hands like on his side, like his hips.
Yeah, she had her hands out next to him.
That's how I sit. Like if my husband's on the couch and he's slouched down and I go and I stand up.
What
over
about
him
your baby? You don't think your son is like your baby?
No, it wasn't like that.
He's just like a huge man.
No, the way
I saw the picture. It was a little weird.
It was weird. The way he was standing in between her legs is what made, like if he had been standing off to the side or further back, no one would have, it would have been just a picture, of him taking a picture of his mom. But the way he was like in her crotch.
It was intimate, but not in a mother-son way.
Right.
Because if I had seen a married couple, and they were taking a picture like that, like let's say photos, like pre-wedding photo types, like kind of sexy, coy, playing around. That's the vibe I get from that. But mother and son.
Yeah, some weird, extraordinary.
And he's already.
I think it was a little weird.
Yeah, I'll put up a screenshot of that on the YouTube video. But yeah, so with that said, what the Harris campaign is doing by painting Trump and the Republican Party is like, you don't want to be around these dudes. You want to be like these dudes. These dudes ain't got nothing in common with you. And also keep the family away. that shit is fantastic marketing. But as we move on
hide your kids, hide your wife.
Well, that's different. You got to hide your wife from me. I don't want the kids. You can keep them bastards.
Your couch and your dog.
That is hilarious. So JD Vance, you got to keep your couch away from him. He can't sit on nothing when he come over. He just got to stand the whole time. And then
plastic is going on everything.
Yeah, and then
like my grandma's plastic on the couch.
Right. And then when Christy Nome comes over, you got to put your dog up in the bedroom somewhere. Right. Close the door. Otherwise, you can put a gun to the dog's head. It just, man, weirdos. The entire Republican Party is full of some strange shit. But on the flip side, you can't just attack. You have to give the people something to look forward to, something to hope for, and, some form of, embodying what people want to see America be more like. Obviously, the country has its shortcomings. And there's, really two ways to address that. You can, denigrate the country as Trump has been wanting to do since he came down that escalator, or you can provide some, hopeful, positive direction to the country and set some standards and hope we meet them whether we fail or not. And I think the Harris campaign has been doing that over the course of the week, especially here at the convention. I mean, there's been numerous people on stage, too many to count. I never thought I'd be, never thought I'd say this, but I'm 100% on board with AOC. Like, how did that happen? That's some new shit.
Her speech was fire. Was fire.
She lit it up. People were saying,
and she's always been a great performer.
That's absolutely true. Although typically her performances have been to denigrate the party and try and cause as much chaos and divisiveness as possible. She learned that from the
so it's great to have her aboard.
It is. I'm still suspicious. Like, I always got a side eye at anybody who was doing everything they could from within the party to sabotage it. Because obviously, that's what happened to the Republican Party, right? Trump and all his cronies came in, tore the party apart, and in the shambles, they took over and turned it into what it is today. And I'm pretty sure that plan didn't only apply to the Republican Party. I'm sure there were numerous people who tried to infiltrate the Democratic Party in 2016 and do the same thing in order to help Trump win. But, lucky for us, we have at the end of the day, the party is based on the population and the citizens who vote. They choose the candidates, and apparently the Democratic Party is just a little more, I guess, astute in their evaluation of potential candidates. We didn't let a lot of clowns in, although we did let a few in. And I'm not saying, Bernie Sanders is the bad guy, but he did hire a bunch of bad guys. But that said, there are also a number of other people who spoke, who painted Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party out to be what, hopefully I would want to see out of a campaign. I mean, just too many people to list who did a fantastic job. But there was one thing that I got a kick out of when Hillary Clinton took the stage, and it was definitely the crowd's response upon her mentioning Donald Trump.
Prosecutor, Kamala locked up murderers and drug traffickers. She will never rest in defense of our freedom and safety. Donald Trump fell asleep at his own trial, and when he woke up, he made his own kind of history, the first person to run for president with 34 felony convictions. As Vice President, Kamala sat in the Situation Room.
Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock his ass up. Karma's a bitch, ain't it? All those people who chanted way back in 2016 at the Trump rallies talking about lock up Hillary Clinton. Oh, my.
Now they're probably talking about decorum. Decorum, where this is so inappropriate.
Yeah, they're not happy.
They've already started with how they were attacking Trump, and so was it Laura Ingraham that was
Look, our feelings.
They were.
Yeah, it's I hate to see it. Couldn't happen to a worse person. Sorry, Trump. It's nice to see Hillary Clinton take the stage again. I feel like we just discarded her from politics. Sadly, after the 2016 election, was just unfortunate. She didn't do anything to deserve that. Like, regardless of how you feel about Hillary Clinton currently, and if you have negative feelings about Hillary, I'll address those in just a second. But if you rewind back just 20 years ago, that was the most popular woman on the planet. She was the biggest thing since sliced bread. Like, however you feel about her politics, she's always been out here in support of things that help the people, the public, not just like the wealthy, like the Republican Party. I know back in the 90s, this is so strange that this comes up, but, people trash Biden for the crime bill and what it did to the black community, but a lot of black people were actually we wanted our neighborhoods cleaned up too. We were like, yeah, they're going to come in and fix all this. Little did we know, once you give power to law enforcement agencies, they find ways to abuse it. The criminal justice system that is what it is. There were people who spoke about the possibility of that being the case and who were ultimately proven to be right. But nonetheless, good things did come out of that. The assault weapons ban, Violence Against Women Act, but that's the
Violence Against Women's Act came out of that too.
All under the Clinton administration. Look, two-edged sword. We can talk about that another day. But one of the things Hillary Clinton was tasked with, and this is just like crazy how we're still stuck on trying to solve the same issues, but coming up with a healthcare plan, and unlike Trump's that's perpetually coming in 2 weeks for 8 years
Fortnite.
now.
Yes.
It was a big task for a first lady to have that on her plate, but she did it. She got a plan together, and people were hugely supportive of it. Although a lot of people in the public felt like, typically handing the weight, the healthcare plan would have been set up would have felt like a handout to people. But the data suggests that the government probably should at least offer some kind of form of public option, just as a cheaper price point, less infrastructure. So more money of that goes to the healthcare providers to provide these services. Not the point though, just to point out that since she arrived on the national scene in politics, the woman was a killer. She was out here, but for good. She was like the Punisher trying to do good shit for the people. And the fact that we just tossed her aside after 2016, after, a multi-decade long plot by Republicans to tarnish her name.
Who's we? I didn't cast her aside. I really wanted her to fucking. I really
think that
wanted
we were
her in
just so
office.
distracted with
I think she needed a minute because she didn't feel she wasn't appreciated, and some oaf beat her, and the world was. Imagine.
I think people were distracted by Trump. I think that his shenanigans and then all of the shenaniganizers surrounding him, that it was just so distracting because it was one thing after another, one felon after another. It was just never ending, non-stop. And it was just, I think the American people were just overwhelmed. I don't think that her supporters like tossed her aside, but they were just so like, okay, who the hell is going to come in and beat this man?
That was a part of
the next election.
That was a part of it. Carol, I was talking about the royal we, not like you and me.
No, I know, but a lot of.
But people didn't even want her to take a public stance on it. They just wanted her to go away, which is extraordinarily strange considering who she was. But there's a reason why public opinion soured on her. And it goes back to, the 2000 election. Once Clinton left the White House, Republicans put a plan together to make sure they spent the next, 15 years doing everything they could to sour her image. to discredit her with the public. And it worked because, by the time 2016 rolled around, there were a lot of people out, and this is strange, talking to people about politics in person, but a lot of people and online. But a lot of people are just like, oh, I don't know, I just don't like her. But the reason why you don't like her is not because she's done anything. It's because there was this campaign organized, well-funded to chip away at her credibility because they knew one day she'd probably be running for office. And it paid off. It really picked up with the Benghazi thing. And then that led to the email scandal. And the email scandal is largely what ultimately did her. I mean, there were a number of factors in 2016, but this was probably the icing on the cake with the emails. And of course, the FBI director announcing like a week before the election, they're reopening an investigation in her emails, even though they were all duplicates. But I bring that up because Republicans have this nasty habit of if they do something out of pocket, but it works and they don't get punished for it, they'll just use the same playbook over and over. And it's exactly what they did to President Biden. Hence the reason he's not even heading the ticket after one term. Like they were determined to make him a one-term president one way or the other. I mean, they just got their wish, not like that. But that whole age thing.
Not like that. No, that's not fair.
No. So for the Democratic Party and Biden supporters, everybody knew he was old when they voted for him in 2020.
I mean, how do they think that time works? Like if you're 77, 78 in this year, in 3 years, you're gonna be 3 years older. Like this
No. But see, here's the thing, right? So we all understood. We're just like, okay, he's old. What really did him in is this unanswerable question that's it's impossible to disprove. Is he too old? Right. And that started on Fox News immediately after practically in 2021, after Fox settled in, after, the insurrection. Once they got back on their messaging, it was, is Biden too old? And they just hammered that for months on end. And then mainstream media started to run with it. And they just spent 3.5 years chipping away at Biden until they ultimately did the same thing to him as they did to Hillary Clinton. And the shit was super
backfired on their asses. And I love that for them.
Yeah, because they never assumed that. I mean, look, I couldn't have possibly assumed that he would drop out. I assumed that I thought after the debate, he was going to weather, a tough month of reporting, get back to normal. Trump would do some crazy shit. And then they would drown out all the talk about Biden being old. What I didn't see coming was the fact that the media is so obsessed with it that they spend more time covering Biden's age than they did Trump getting shot at by a Republican, which is fucking crazy.
Or the things that Biden had accomplished. And one thing that really pisses me off right now is that every single person who is now going on and saying, oh, the Democrats did a coup. They pushed Biden out. No, motherfucker, you did that. We did not push him out. You did that. Every day, every single outlet, and the New York Times decided that they were committed.
Washington Post, everybody was in on it.
They decided that they were committed to pushing Biden out, and they were relentless. And that type of, it was too much. It was coming from all sides. It was coming from every side. And had his supporters, like those with larger platforms like the George Clooney, had they stayed strong and steadfast, everyone else would have too. When they started to, it started to make everybody else shaky. But the thing is that they're acting like they were just sitting back and that we were just sitting around like Trump plotting fake electors and shit to get Biden out. Like the Dems were just sitting around with this master plan when it was you, the same ones who are making these comments and saying, do you feel resentment at being pushed out? I would have been like, bitch.
These are the people.
I read that article you wrote about
these
me.
are the people who, the people asking those questions are the same people that set the stage such that even made it possible for the party to turn, like the elected officials to turn against the sitting president while he's the nominee and try to force him off the ticket.
And when we catch the guys who did it.
Yeah, right. And now they're acting brand new.
Yeah, they
and
OJ.
That really pisses me off because I'm like,
oh, it's so frustrating.